Good day, team. My name is Christian Peters, and I will be leading you through sensitivity analysis training today. We will discuss the role of financial managers, sensitivity analysis, and the risk as they pertain to capital budgeting. The goal of financial management, at least in terms of capital budgeting, is to grow the business by investing in projects that earn more than they cost, such as new product lines, investment opportunities, or a banking product. Financial managers also need to be able to identify and mitigate risk associated with a new project. Some projects can yield aggressive growth, but if risk variables are not mitigated, they can lead to catastrophic consequences. Take the UK bank Northern Rock, whose virtuous circle business model showed a 19% profit growth, but that was overly reliant on income from non-retail money markets. Because the bank's board of directors did not identify or mitigate risks to its new business model effectively, when a single input variable fell in 2007, it quickly took the Northern Rock Bank with it. Financial managers use sensitivity analysis and scenario analysis to test a new project's validity by seeing what happens to a project's output, like NPV or IRR, when there are changes to its input, like expected sales, cost of goods. Scenario analysis can include changes in multiple variables at once, whereas sensitivity analysis focuses on changes to one variable at a time. We will take a closer look at sensitivity analysis today. Sensitivity analysis takes assumptions about a project, such as expected market size or expected material costs, and prepares decision makers for what might happen when those assumptions are more optimistic or pessimistic than expected. The project may have a positive NPV with an expected input variable, but negative if the same variable is changed even slightly. It starts with the qualitative step, which is discussing items like perceived customer needs or wants, understanding the goals of the capital budgeting project, and building a base or expected case. Mainly, you want to list all the assumptions and decide on which inputs should be highlighted before crunching the numbers. The quantitative step of sensitivity analysis involves taking the base or expected model and adjusting inputs such as sales, investment returns, expected taxes to see how the outputs of the model are changed. The outputs financial managers use to measure this change are net present value or NPV, internal rate of return or IRR, payback period, and profitability index, among others. Net present value tells the present value of all future cash flows, considering the time value of money. IRR shows the return percentage of the capital budgeting project. The payback period is the time it takes to make back up the cash used in the initial investment of the project. Finally, profitability index shows the return on every dollar invested into the project. Now, in conducting sensitivity analysis, financial managers can identify and assess the severity of the risk. Take sales, for example. It is not uncommon for sales of a new product to be lower than expected. Sensitivity analysis can show that although sales are lower than expected, NPV or profitability index can still be positive. It may also show at what number of sales do the outputs become negative, giving financial managers thresholds or indicators to look out for when the product is in execution. Sensitivity analysis can quantify success, failure, and expectation. Sensitivity analysis can quantify what success, failure, and expectation look like for a capital budgeting project. It also allows financial managers to generate contingency plans before the what-if scenario comes to fruition, therefore mitigating risk. For example, say the sensitivity analysis shows sales as being highly sensitive and therefore an important input in the new capital budgeting project. The financial manager could then set aside additional capital for an aggressive marketing campaign to boost sales. That way, when the project is initiated, and sales start to trend downwards towards the thresholds or indicators identified, the firm can launch the marketing campaign and keep sales numbers on track with the expected or optimistic levels. Again, in the case of Northern Rock Bank, if the bank was able to see how sensitive their business model was to a drop in non-retail money market values, it may have been able to diversify its income streams and absorb the market drop. What happened in Northern Rock Bank is an example of an external risk affecting the company's growth plan. Other external risks may include policy changes, changes to customer behavior, and so on. Internal risks such as compliance with regulations, infrastructure, and resource constraints also need to be identified. So long as financial managers are able to identify, understand, monitor, and prepare for risk, then a project will have a solid chance of success. Key takeaways. Financial managers are responsible for understanding what input variables are the most important to a capital budgeting project. That is, a project a firm intends on investing in for the purpose of creating growth. Sensitivity analysis is a tool to test how changes in input variables can affect the capital budgeting project. Just as the name suggests, some projects can be very sensitive to changes in input such as sales or cost of goods. Sensitivity analysis can help financial managers identify and mitigate risk associated with a new project through additional contingency planning. I'd also like to reiterate that sensitivity analysis only measures changes in one variable at a time and therefore is limited in the real world, where multiple variables are usually changed at once. Here are my references, and I'd like to thank you all for coming today.